Hey, Loraya. Um, I wanted to leave you another round of feedback on your film review. So I think that your thesis statement is pretty strong. Um, your summary is working pretty well. I think it's good. And I think your points of analysis are pretty good as well. That is primarily what I want to talk to you about for this second round of revision. Um, so be certain to format film titles. They are italicized in MLA. I like this opening line that you both introduce the director and the film. You might consider giving a little bit more background information about Ross, since you call him a well-respected director. You might hint at some of the other films that he has directed that are well known or well respected, so we understand why you're describing him as such. I do like these two sentences. The one that briefly discusses the plot and the themes. But at this point, they kind of read like separate ideas entirely. So if you could find a way to more clearly connect Katniss herself to these two themes, so these sentences don't read like just like a list of points, that would be really helpful. So perhaps it's the idea of expanding this a little bit, bringing in more detail, particularly here. But if you could find a way to connect these main ideas, that Katniss, this arena where she fights for her life, and through that we get this understanding of love and inequality, that could be a really nice way to start this off to help the reader understand that all these ideas are connected instead of them just kind of being like this list of points about the film. I think the thesis statement works pretty well. The one place that I would focus on for revision is your vague word here, it. It's unclear if the it here is the theme, the Katniss herself, or the movie, and quite possibly it's all three, right? Because if it's the movie, it's really Katniss and how she helps the reader understand the themes of the film. So I think doing a little bit of revision here will help out quite a bit. Like I said, I like your summary. I think it's pretty effective. And at this point, I think this is where you're really starting your analysis. But I didn't catch that right off the bat. When I read this opening sentence, I thought that this was going to be a second paragraph of summary, since that's what the opening sentence does. But then you end up talking about love, your first theme. So I recommend introducing love as a theme first in this paragraph, right? Because that's essentially your key point, and you're letting the reader know that that's going to be the focus here. So as a whole, for me, this paragraph, I loved the ideas, but they seemed a little disorganized. So I feel like a more effective way to organize this paragraph is to start the paragraph off by introducing that you're going to unpack the first theme of love, and that you're really focusing on two examples of love, two different types of love from the film: familial love and then romantic love, right? Because we get the understanding of family love from Katniss and the sacrifice that she makes for her younger sister. And then we also, the Hunger Games in some ways is also a coming of age story, because Katniss experiences romantic love through Peeta for the first time. So you might think about how you can introduce that overarching theme of love, and then pivot into those two different examples of how the film explores two different kinds of loves through Katniss. Um, this paragraph threw me off as well, because it took me a minute to understand that you were unpacking your second theme of inequality, because this opening sentence made me think that you were going to continue to talk about maybe sub points about love. So same thing here, where I'm asking you to identify that you're talking about theme first. I would do the same thing in this paragraph, right? So let the reader know that you're essentially unpacking your second theme of inequality. So a little bit of revision, particularly in the beginning, would be helpful. Um, I I like the points about technical aspects of the film. But I tell you what threw me off is that you came back to the idea of characters and passion, because this felt like something that should actually follow your ideas of theme, particularly love, since passion is something that we associate with love. Um, and it kind of felt like it was in the wrong place following a conversation about really technical stuff, right? So I recommend putting everything together where you're talking about themes and passion and the characters in one section, right? So moving this paragraph somewhere up in here and then following it with the more technical aspects. Um, I I liked I liked your nod to Collins here. But this made me think that we were going to have a completely different conversation, that we were going to have a conversation solely about Collins. But actually, this is the conversation that we end up having, the one about Ross and his technical work in the film, right? The setting where he chose to film, and then also the music. So I think if you could perhaps connect these two sentences together, right? So maybe make this a compound or a complex sentence. Um, I think your key idea here will be more clear for the reader. So there's not a ton of revision to do, but I do think that there is some shifting around. Again, I think I don't know if I've said this on your paper, but I've said it quite often with this in this assignment. Saying something like a good job, an extraordinary job, is just too informal for this kind of writing. So instead of saying job, right, you need to literally list what makes the film work, right? So here's a good place for you to reinforce all the criteria that you discussed, right? So job is just far too broad and informal for the reader to really understand what you're saying there. So those are the points that I would focus on for revision. I think it's working well, and I think with another round of tweaking, really focusing on organization and clarifying those key points, I think you'll get there. And hooray, there were no sentence fragments. So yay, great work there. All right, thanks, Loraya.